Our sponsors for this episode are Hall's Tree Service. Locally owned and operated, Hall's Tree Service has been exceeding and surpassing customer demands in Newton and the surrounding area for over 40 years. Larry and his crew are guaranteed to work hard for you. There's no tree too tall, no job too small. Call Hall's at 316-772-1919. Absolute drain. Look, no one, and I mean no one, likes it when their sink, bathtub, washing machine, or especially their toilets start backing up. It's even worse when they won't drain or flush at all. No matter who you are, it happens to us all. If this is happening to you, then you need to give Garth with Absolute Drain a call. Absolute Drain is located at 420 West Broadway in Newton and has been faithfully serving Newton and surrounding areas for longer than I can even remember. I personally use Absolute Drain, and they have kept my pipes cleaned out and flowing day one. It might just be time for you to give them a call too at 316-283-7264. The Newton Kansan is Newton's longest-running local newspaper covering all the stories, people, places, and things happening in our community. Chad Fry, the Kansan guy, editor of the Kansan, works diligently to ensure integrity, accuracy, and unbiased news is delivered to your doorstep 3 times a week for an unbeatable price. You can also sign up for online-only access for around $7 a month. That's 12 online papers a month for only $7. If you've not subscribed, it's time you do. Visit them in their office at 517 North Main Street. That's 517 North Main Street in Newton. Online at thekansan.com. That's thekansan.com. Or give them a call at 316-283-1500. That's 316-283-1500. Support local journalism, support the Kansan. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this HCTalk podcast. As always, I'm your host, Lance Gormley, and my 2 co-partners in crime are Andy Ortiz, local businessman and entrepreneur, and Chad Fry, as we affectionately know as the Kansan guy, editor of the Kansan paper. And I will have to admit, I am the reason that we did not have the podcast last week, because I hadn't pre-planned for the adjustment that would take place having a kiddo over the summer. So I got that figured out and everything, but so that way we don't want rumors to fly. You know, it might you miss a week and that means we might have gone belly up, which is not the truth there, but hey, let them fly, let those rumors fly, and believe what you want to believe and think what you want to think, because that's the society that we live in today. And you don't even have to be right. You can be totally wrong, and still, as you look in the mirror, you can tell yourself, I am right, which is something that we might cover a little bit on the program today. Other than that, gentlemen, how was your weeks, the last couple weeks?
They came and they went.
Fast, too.
Very, very, very fast.
It gets faster every year, I swear.
Yep. I still have fingers, but I'm starting to wonder how long they're going to last.
Going to work them to the bone or what, Chad? Yeah. Doing some crazy stuff on the side. You're going to have people's mind wander. What does he mean when he says he has fingers? Is he doing something that he would lose his fingers for? Oh, it's one of those things I didn't catch.
I've been writing a lot
because I'm not an editor of a paper. See?
So yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, Andy, what do you got, man? You almost losing fingers because you're out here cutting with a chainsaw, I'm sure, after the last storm.
I've been using a chainsaw. You can see out there a lot of little piles, and there'll be more growing, and we can't move into the burn pile because the tractors are too heavy and mess up the ground, so I just got to let stuff sit for a little while.
Yep.
But no, things are good. Yeah. Things have been really good. Very good. Really excited about the Spurs. Little childhood feelings coming up when I'm watching them do a good job, and it's really sad for me when they're not doing well, just because I have fond memories of the David Robinson era when I really got into basketball and the whole deal, and then see them struggle for 4 or 5 years, a little longer than that, but really struggle for 4 or 5 years, and to come back again, it's a dynasty, baby. I love it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I don't really do sports. If you guys ask me questions about like Spurs or when is the playoffs or any of this stuff, I don't know. I have no idea. Where's this happening? I was thinking the other day, the big hubbub in Kansas City, and they're going to have something to do with the World Cup. And yeah, that's soccer. That's soccer, right?
Big deal.
Are they like just part of the tournament, or are they like the big shebang, or does that all happen in one location?
No, we're in the World Cup, baby. I mean, that's the deal.
So that's everybody goes to that one location and does a tournament?
Right now, when we get started, there'll be multiple locations.
Okay.
And Kansas City's one of them. So I got a line on a couple of people who are actually from Newton that are going to be volunteering to assist with hospitality and the like up in Kansas City. So hopefully I'm going to try and call you and get a story about those folks here shortly. I'm super excited about that. But yes, it's World Cup, man, and it's a big deal.
It is a big
This
deal.
this is like the biggest, probably the biggest sporting event in the world, to be honest. I mean,
You dig into those soccer players and the stories behind them, and I mean, you're talking global, right? And where some of these people, as humble as their beginnings are, for them to track their way through to be in the World Cup and to play a game it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Life-changing for almost all of them.
Yeah. And when people ask me what sport, I mean, because I'm not anti-sport, right? What sport do I like? I like Taekwondo. You know, I mean, when it comes around for Olympic time.
What about jiu-jitsu?
Jiu-jitsu's good. Okay, so a sport that I do watch is the UFC, and we'll cover a little bit about that later as well.
oh God.
Anonymous 123 is calling you a liar right now.
Right.
See, he lied.
Use AI on that. Did Lance Gormley ever do Taekwondo? Well, because I didn't post it on Facebook. No, he didn't, or whatever. Yeah, I did Taekwondo for many, many years, and I'm one of those people, they say once a black belt, always a black belt, but I don't give myself that grace because I'm not doing any jumping 360 hook kicks today. Right, I had a medical
What
event.
about tomorrow?
Hey, you know what? Part of the Taekwondo tenets are an indomitable spirit. So I definitely believe without a shadow of a doubt that an individual can achieve anything. I know when I started it, I wasn't doing a jumping 360 hook kick, breaking a board above my head. I was not doing it. Now, did I progressively, day after day after day after day, of just working that system for 7 years? Yeah, absolutely. Could do it clockwork every time. Okay, so speaking of sports, something happened here locally, and we don't always cover a whole lot of local stuff. We're kind of getting away from doing a lot of local stuff on this podcast. Make sure that you catch the Newton Kansan updates because those are ones that really hone in, gives Chad the opportunity to just talk about what's going on in our community. But it's something that I didn't really want to cover because of, I think, some shame. When we were talking at the beginning of the program with it, it's just very.
You're probably looking out for the club, right?
Yeah, like I
in a way.
Yes, because it's like I love this organization. I've had people out here from this organization, on the podcast to talk about what they're doing, and it's a wonderful organization that includes history and longevity and just continuing into the future, and they're turning that page, and hopefully it'll be around for another 100 years. It really could be. And then all of a sudden you see some blip come across the news about something that happened that wasn't good, right?
Right.
And we were talking about Chad getting ready to have something in the Kansan about it. So do you just want to cover very briefly what you can expect in the Kansan from this article?
You're talking about NMAC.
Yep.
So the Newton Mexican American Athletic Club, which is the host of the big fast pitch softball tournament every year. By the way, that is the longest continuously running tournament of its kind in the United States.
They've got to almost be 80 years now. It's
78.
like 78. Okay.
78.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, and ain't nobody even come close to 78 in a row. So it's super cool. But right about the 1st of May, I believe it was, they let some folks know that there was money missing from their accounts. And an investigation was launched. So what I've got coming up, actually it should be already at thekansan.com, and it's in today's print edition. Today's Thursday, by the way. Is that there was money missing? There is no question about it. The person who is responsible for it has already admitted everything, and some of that happened in writing to the board of NMAC. And they're not seen as a flight risk or going anywhere or doing anything. They're just seen as somebody who's absconded with an unknown amount of money. So there's all kinds of rumors around town about why that happened and how much it is and yada, yada, yada. So where things stand right now is that Newton Police Department has submitted paperwork for some subpoenas for some bank accounts so that they can go through everything. Because
I would hate that job.
Yeah. Because if it's more than $25,000, the severity of the felony it's more severe.
Yeah. Increases.
Right?
Increases. Penalty increases.
Yes, the penalty phase and all of that, everything goes up. If it's less than 25,000, then it's in a different classification. So right now, they're not investigating who did it because they know. They're not investigating whether or not it happened because they know. They're investigating how much has been taken. And then once they've got all that stuff done, then the county attorney can prosecute if the county attorney chooses to do so. And I'm assuming that Heather will choose to do so. Yeah. Because, we're not talking a couple $100 here. It's several $1,000s.
Well, and I'm a person that believes, and I hated because I understand there's so many different situations and circumstances that surround why people make the decisions that they make. And oftentimes it's because they're not, if it's when they're young, it has to do with just not understanding the full-on consequences, making poor choices. So I understand because of my own personal life experience that looking back, many people regret the choices that they've made when it comes to that. But justice has to be blind. So when it comes to, hey, if you stole a couple $100, then that's a couple $100,
right? And
that's crime. If you stole $20,000 under $25,000, that's a crime. If it's over 25, I don't think I want to get back to principles, right? So it's kind of like, well, if it was a couple $100, sweep it under the rug or whatever. But and that organization probably would have handled it differently as well, dependent upon the amount. Whether I can, say, hey, not saying Chad, but Chad, I know, you were down on your luck, and here's a couple $100, and I know why you did what you did, but we're going to remove you from being able to do it again, and I'm going to write a check for $200 to put the money back in the pot. So we're square and right as rain. But when you get to a sizable amount that can't just be replaced, what do you do at that point in time? But speaking of finances, let's say, and a person being in a bad situation, be either by their own decision making. Sorry, I'm trying to play footsie with Chad under the table here today. You can't see that on camera, but I moved and Chad moved really fast. So I don't know what that means, but hey.
It means he's not of the other persuasion.
Or I could have just caught him off guard. Maybe he didn't ever look at me like that in the light, but you think faithful about it after the fact.
I'm just being faithful.
Oh shoot.
Okay. So okay. There's no doubt whatsoever, and over the last couple of weeks, I've really processed some of our podcasts we've done, and we're under time constraints and stuff, and I wonder, do we just take one issue and hone in real deep on it, so that way we can provide more information and hopefully to educate and individuals who listen to the program? Do we, because we only do it once a week, do we kind of just keep different ones going and just lightly cover it to get them thinking juices going in people's minds, and hopefully they go back and they research what we're saying and kind of formulate why we come to the conclusion that we have, etc. Okay. With that being said, we've covered a lot about the current administration. I went back into our archives, so for those people that think that somehow or another we're being unique to the current administration and being critical, that is obviously not the truth, because we were being critical, I was being critical of past administrations as well. And not only that, but I went back through the archives and looked to see, was I actually on podcast promoting Trump to be elected as president? And the answer is yes, I did. So therefore, we're just clearing up some things that may or may not have influenced people to think about what this podcast is actually about and like. I mean, it's you just got to do your research, which will be something else that we talk about on this podcast today. But is anybody in a better financial situation today than they were 2 weeks ago? And then 2 weeks ago to 6 months ago, 6 months ago to a year ago to 5 years ago? Is anybody, including you gentlemen here at this table, in a better financial situation today than you were in previous years?
Me personally, no. And I've been working really, really hard to bail all the water and get caught up. But honestly, I don't see it changing. I just don't. You know, when you're like me and you spend your time exchanging time for money, and if you work hourly, or if you work a job, basically, that's what you're doing. You're exchanging your time for money.
Okay, now why do you think this is the case, Chad? Why do you think that today you can honestly say, although you are doing what you can do in order to even, and I know you personally, make more money because of the cost of living has continuously, progressively gotten more expensive? Why didn't that work? Why didn't going out and working more, making more money? Somebody would assume you go out, you need more money, you go work for more money, you're going to have more money. Because
regardless of what you've been hearing on the nightly news, we have these pockets of time where they say things like, wages have grown this much. Okay. Overall, over time, wages have not kept pace with inflation. That is not an indictment of any singular administration. I mean, when I say over time, let's go back to, I don't care, pick a year, 1970. My entire lifetime. They haven't. They flat out have not. It's just a fact.
But
and we are in a period where we had like maybe a 6-month reprieve, but we're on year 5 or 6 of just inflation that's just killing us all. And our wages are not going up as fast as everything else. It's just the way it is. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean,
Andy, okay, business-wise, right? Understanding that you're a businessman, is it easier to do business today than it has been in the past? Or is that a subjective question? I mean, in some ways, yes. In some ways, no. I mean, kind of what I'm trying to do is get a feel for where you all are at, because I've been researching this pretty heavy as far as just, I'm going to give some general statistics and stuff. So I'm not baiting you all, but just kind of business-wise, is it easier to do business today than it was 5 years ago?
It's a loaded question, right? I think it depends on the sectors that you're in. I think it depends on where you're at in your business cycle with your business. I think it depends on how much you're relying on certain types of financing for your business. There's a lot of different ways to do things. I think in the private world, money is moving. Money's getting shifted around. If you're in a position to be able to take advantage of those opportunities, it's a really good thing right now. I think people are being bullish about investing in things. There's been some incentives that were tucked into that big, beautiful bill that it incentivizes people to unlock their money and move it and grow it and be incentivized to do that. So again, and it depends. There's a lot of different people out there doing a lot of different things at a lot of different levels. I mean, it just depends. A 1099 is a business, right?
Right.
But then you have all different other types of businesses and all different growths of business. You have people that have a business with 3 people. You have a guy who has a business with 1 person but contracts with 3 decent sized companies that knows how to hunt and does really well for himself. You got people that have a company with 35 employees, right? And that's a different model, depending on how you've built that and structured it. I think the landscape is changing. I think people are reducing costs with implementing AI, and the schemas are changing. They're looking at long-term growth. They're looking at training robots through badges. So do you remember when you would train your replacement?
Yeah.
You guys remember all those conversations we used to have probably in the 2000s?
Yeah.
Back in the 1900s?
Or a new hire. You know, you get a new hire comes in. You're talking about, let's say I'm a 50-year-old man working in a workforce, and I can't do as much as what I used to do. So they hire somebody younger that costs less money to the company than maybe where I was at.
Yes.
And then I'm supposed to train them. So that way, when the time comes, I'm getting axed because I'm not meeting productivity where this younger person can meet productivity.
100% part of the formula.
Okay.
So that is exactly it. Well, now you'll see it within the next 6 months. It's already happening. People are having badges when they go into their companies, and they have to put on the badge. Whatever you do outside of that is your business. But once you come in, you put this badge on. This badge monitors everything you do, every keystroke, every website you're on, every time you go to the bathroom, how long it takes you to walk to your chair to the bathroom. And that is also training on the backside bots to figure out what you're doing and how you're doing it, so it could just take over for you. Because AI needs to be trained. It needs to be shown what to do and how to do it. And just like your algorithms are manipulating you, we are now training a workforce of bots to do a lot of tasks that will change the landscape.
Right.
So people are moving, people are pivoting, they're adjusting, right? Big markets are doing what they do. So that's, again, it's a loaded question because there's a lot of angles to it, and I don't want to get too crazy here. But on the surface level, yes, business is decent depending on what sector you're in. The companies I'm a part of are very optimistic about where we're going and what we're doing. We're keeping all those things that I just talked about in the back of our minds as far as how we're pivoting and building the systems to make the companies money, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's what you have to do.
That's a good perspective, Andy, because I guess then I could change. I'm categorizing what I was getting ready to lead into, which is looking at it from a business perspective. Yes, business has the opportunity to do good. So then I want to reframe my question and then lead into this. Is it better today for the common, we're going to call it the common man, right? We're going to call it the, because even though we have classes where we have lower class, middle class, and upper class, let's say, I'm not so sure that people that make $200,000 a year are inherently all of a sudden, because they make more money, doing better than somebody that was part of the dwindling middle class. And one of the reasons why I want to say this has to do with the increase, like what Chad said. The basic on the front, right? Wages. When you're talking about wages, being locked in, selling your time. A business is not necessarily doing that. The people that are employed by the business are in that category, right? So you have an individual that works for a business, they're locked into a wage. And then the increase of that wage does not outpace the increase of inflation. I've often heard through the Trump administration, and this is like a bell that they just continue to ring. And then you have a certain demographic of people who are extremely invested in what we would call the stock market, obviously, because that's loaded in and of itself. But the Dow is up. The Dow is up. The NASDAQ is up. The NASDAQ is up. So I started doing a little bit of research, and I'm like, okay, over the last however many years, I'm just being very general, very 10,000-foot view. Over the last however many years, has the stock market, okay, increased, right? And this is all subjective. We can get into the weeds here, but we'd be here all day long about the stock market and whether some people win and some people lose and who you have doing this and that and everything else in the sun. But generally speaking, the stock market has increased exponentially. I think around some 30%, right? But then I started asking the question, yes, understandably so. The stock market is going up. The Dow's going up. The NASDAQ's going up, which means more money in my pocket, right? So if I had $100, I'm going to use real round, simple numbers. If I have $100 in my retirement or in the stock market, and it's gone up 30%, I'm now at $130, okay? So that's good. That's good. But then you come over and you ask the question, well, what does that dollar buy me? Okay, so therefore we can sit here and if we look at it and just say, well, the stock market is up, the stock market is up, then we also have to look at, well, how much is fuel up? Because if that dollar that I have in the stock market is increasing, and that means I have more money by 30%, I just went and I cross-referenced it against fuel prices. How much has fuel gone up in the same amount of time? And it is relatively the same. So the question then becomes, can we just simply look at the stock market, or can we just simply look at our dollar value going up and saying, well, I'm making 1 more, 2 more, 3 more, 30% more of my tangible dollar amount, but how much buying power does that dollar actually give me?
Yeah, I look at it a little differently, but I don't want to get into the weeds on that because I wouldn't suggest people not look at it
Have at it, Andy. Have it, because I'm looking at it from the perspective of just being.
I think the bigger problem for me is the devaluing of the currency, and I think that's what you're kind of getting at, right? It's devaluing the currency that we have, which is the American dollar, right? Which is powerful, which is becoming less powerful over time, and how that is happening, I think, is where I get nervous, right? Because there is conservative efforts around the world to change that, and it's real. Right. And we need to be careful because when you just infuse a bunch of money into the economy, like what we did for COVID, with no goods or services attached to it, you don't have a product or service that dollar is fulfilling, which means you just watered down your currency.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. $1 now is on like it for a loaf of bread. A loaf of bread, like it's a loaf
when
of
you
bread.
Buy a loaf of bread,
costs $1.
There's a tangible transaction to that dollar. There's some value on both sides exchanged, and that's where I get worried about the socialist mindset, understanding why the younger people, and there is a strong pushback, and I'm very proud of this Gen Z group, by the way, in a lot of different ways, but we'll get to that later, hopefully, or at some other time. But there is a tangible service or goods given. When you infuse money, because the Treasury can just say,
print another $1 billion.
Here, put this into the economy.
$1 trillion.
Or when we are not looking at other means like cutting back on the $9 billion, and we'll use the headliner with Minnesota, right? And that just still doesn't get the play that I think it should be getting because that kind of stuff is going on across the nation. I just saw this. Here's an example. This situation in California here recently in LA, where they wanted to put homeless people into this hotel that was ratted out. So they got like a $10 million grant or something to fix it. And 6 years later, they barely started construction. And when they have to now, because of some things that happen economically in that area, they have to put another $20 million into it. When the project's said and done, it's going to be like $621,000 per room.
Right.
To house a person.
And that in and of itself
each
just
person
sends
in
up
that
red
hotel.
flags. Absolute red
Ridiculous.
flags.
So those are the kind of measures I think that we should be looking at when you talk about wasteful spending, devaluing of currency. Why are we spending so much money in so many layers of taxes in our everyday lives? And what are the goods and services that money's going out to provide for the greater good of the whole? And when you find out that that's not happening and there's no spigots or spouts, then you have government contracts going on in the Middle East, and I'm going to get political here, where you have, and I hate when people don't want to look at both sides of this, right? Because you have a story where Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, made 22 million or whatever it was, and he was on this Burisma
like
board, and some people don't even know about that, right? Because of their tunnels and their algorithms, and they just don't want to hear it because their people can never do anything wrong. He's an artist, leave him alone. He's a free-loving guy. He's probably the best guy in the world, and he might be. I don't know the guy.
You just don't like Biden.
But at the end of the day, it's $20 million, and then you hear Donald Trump Jr. closing a contract, creating drones for $625 million, and he's marrying the daughter to the banker of Jeffrey Epstein. And you're going, hello, people. Does that not look a little jacked up to you?
Ivanka buying a private island on her own.
Is this but this is the problem.
I'm not intentionally throwing these arrows, but come on, guys.
You got these people that won't say anything about Hunter. You got these other people that won't say anything about that what happened with Donald Trump Jr., which frankly, I'm more on one side than the other, but you got to call that out.
Right.
Yeah.
And if anything, because of the life you live, you should be you should be in a position, if you get a contract like that, to answer serious questions.
Yeah. Except for then we've got this continuous stonewalling at this point in time of bureaucracy to our elected officials. And I'll say this I've really been thinking about how to frame this and just to try to get people to think about something. Because you're only presented with two options, right? We've got a two-party system, okay? Just because I'm against what this one is doing does not mean that automatically the alternative is the other, right? I'm in a position right now where I'm like, this is one or this is one. And it goes back to, well, you're always voting for the lesser of two evils. So my mind works for how do we figure this out? Because I still don't think Kamala Harris would have made a better president than Trump. But I think Trump is not making a very good president at all anyway. And
I think he's doing some good things. I think he's doing better than Kamala. That's my personal opinion. Y'all can beat me up about it. We can have a debate over coffee on that stuff, on the big picture. But he's not what a lot of people make him out to be. I mean, he's just not. I mean, come on. I mean, when you're going to help your friends and family to that degree, you're super loyal only to the people closest to you. You can have somebody that stood up for you, like a Marjorie Taylor Greene, in a campaign, and just throw her under the bus and chop her up and then spit her back out into the ocean and not give zero damns about what the risk she put herself in when you were in the fire to back you up, right, and to fight, and to show up to those court cases when you were the one on trial and to be one of your loudest voices. Right. Then you got this Massey guy who was the darling of the right wing, who I like a lot. Yeah. Well, and he's now ousted. Yes. Right. Yeah. And then you can't really say why he's ousted, because all he did was he kept doing what he was doing and asking for accountability, which is what the Trump administration ran on, and that's not happening to the degree that it should. It's going to come. It's going to come. Oh, while this is happening over here with the $625 million deal, and while AIPAC is doing this over here and investing all this freaking crazy money, and nobody on both sides wants to take responsibility for their own side. And I think more of us need to start saying, whoa, we need to have a conversation as a country, because what's really happening, and it's very obvious to a guy like me, is that all of these NGOs and all of these outside organizations and these special interest groups are the ones running our country. Yeah. Well, right? I go back to, so it wasn't Kamala, it wasn't Biden, it was somebody with an extreme view that was able to get some money to get that part of their job done, to continue to manipulate our political system for the gain of companies. I mean, this is it. This is where we're at. It's not rocket science. Your side or my side ain't any better. Now, I think one's a little bit smarter than the other, but I'm biased, and I'll admit that, right? Because there's some that are just like so blatant. Here's the Trump effect. It is so blatant at this point. He ain't even caring to hide it. He was the one that started talking about, which I know you hate the term, right? But it's very real now. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? With the fake media and the manipulation, and those aren't newscasters, they're opinion pundits. Right. People didn't know that. People still don't know that. Some people. Well, and the boomers are having the hardest time in the world on this one. Man, so you know what, Andy? I didn't even say what I was going to talk about today to you guys, just so most people know. No. This is exactly feeding into what I wanted to talk about. Right. Okay. So the one hand is not always better than the other. And what I've come to the realization of is both are corrupt, right? So it's nothing new to say what Trump is doing is nothing different than what all the other ones are doing, except for the fact that he's doing it Trump style. Okay, there's a couple things I wanted to bring up. In an unprecedented deal, Trump negotiated with his former criminal defense attorney, whom he appointed acting attorney general, to prevent audits of his tax returns or any filed by his family and their businesses. Interesting. Right? One Republican immediately offered an amendment to block this deal and ensure no person is above the law. Now, you're going to have Democrats that are getting up and just, oh my God, I can't believe Trump is doing this. I can't believe he's doing this. But yet they use the system. Right? Those that are in the same situation use the system. When they were in the power position. Yeah. So it's almost like, where people were just kind of diddling around it, and they were all just kind of doing it, right? Like this insider trading crap that all of Congress is doing, all right?
on both sides, right?
Correct.
And then the Epstein Island thing, both sides. Everything we see, it's all both sides. They're just exploiting and robbing us the treasury, okay? So therefore, then it's hard for me to say, well, you can't be one or the other.
Which is
right?
devaluing what for us?
The dollar.
Currency.
Which goes back to why we are having problems as the common person, which is why, and not only that, but then we talked a little bit about on the program 2 weeks ago or maybe before about how it seems interesting that we're on this Iran deal. Dollar is tied to oil. Oil is tied to daughter. They're sister cousins. Okay, they're identical twins. And then you have, oh, we're going to reach a deal. Oh, we're not going to reach a deal. Stock market goes up. Stock market goes down. Stock market goes up. Stock market. These huge fluctuations. Okay. In fact, all it takes for Trump is to say, I'm going to investigate. I'm going to invest in HCTalk podcast, and boom. People will be investing like crazy.
Yeah, the crazy thing is I think his net worth has gone up $4 billion here in the very recent.
And that's not that's just his. That's not including his kiddos.
Oh, that's a whole nother.
Or anybody
just got
that's
a big
around
government
him.
contract.
Yeah,
$600 million.
And who are we servicing here? We're servicing people that have tons and tons and tons of investments in the stock market. It goes back to what Warren Buffett tries to say. Right? I live very meagerly when it comes to my asset. Like, goes back to politics, right? Your campaign funding, when AIPAC gives you $300 million. Okay.
That's exaggerating. It was like 285.
Yeah. 200. And I know you're talking about the Trump administration. And I can play stuff. And,
Isn't that crazy?
Back and forth. They don't like me because I don't receive any of their money, and I'm not going to receive any of their money. And the next thing you know, you're $300 million deep in
With one group.
With one group that then gets how much money of our tax-paying dollars? And this is not just an AIPAC thing. For those people that think, oh, all of a sudden we're anti-Semitic somehow.
That's it.
Right? This is not just AIPAC. This is for any fringe political organization. Look at what's happening right now with what Trump's trying to do in order to sue the IRS, I think is what it was. I might be getting some things jumbled up here. But in order to reward or to compensate people that were part of the January 6 riots. It's like 1.5. It was I got it here.
It's a ridiculous amount of money that got blocked this week.
Yes, but it's just back and forth.
Yes.
And back and forth. There is no consistency at all when it comes to anything that's going on right now.
Well,
like, you better just sit back and watch the shit show unfold, because you know what? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. For the 250th birthday, we're going to wind up having a UFC showdown on the White House lawn.
For the
buddy.
250th
you know
birthday, I'm going to light fireworks in front of my house with my neighbors.
But, well, you know what? That's because you don't meet whatever military requirement that is needed to be met in order to show up to get a ticket.
You know what? Here's the other part of it. I don't like UFC. I don't give a rat.
I do.
So I'm not,
It's the blood sport,
I like boxing more, but I don't mind watching
boxing's good sport.
I'd rather watch basketball, but...
Well, and here we are.
Well, even then, I mean, Judas Cripes, the WNBA has taken basketball away from me now. So... And just speaking on this, right? When we're talking about this up and this down and this up and this down, I look at trends like, what has changed? Nothing. The Strait of Hormuz is still closed. I mean, we're going up on 100 days now.
You're still fighting in Ukraine?
Yeah. Yes, we are.
We are still...
All of a sudden, that's just not even talked about?
We are still racking up...
What's going on with Doge?
Debt.
That doesn't even exist anymore.
That's gone, dismantled.
All the stuff. And this goes back to the whole thing. I say it again. I didn't for people that for people that think somehow or another that I'm not an individual thinker, and somehow or another it should be cast in the same lot or this lot or that lot or whatever the case may be.
Who's paying you?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's right. You know, hey, just so you know, I'll be like every other podcaster. Give me $100 million and you may be able to, sway a couple hundred people.
Just so you know out there, we'll do it for 100,000.
100,000 and you'll
Speak
get.
for yourself, man. Speak for yourself, because you know
ain't
what?
going very well for
Integrity is all I got.
Okay, yeah.
So it's going to be expensive to buy it.
Okay, so with that, so everybody understands what we're saying here, right? And then I go back to the Massey thing. I've really been researching that. I made the comment 2 weeks ago, and a lot of it has to do, I'm kind of having this break. Just if you've been listening to the podcast, then you're going to know why I'm saying and going in the direction that I'm going here, because I've been trying to research this and ask, how are people so dumb? Right, I just say this, right? Okay, but at the same time,
the 50-year war on public education might actually be paying off now.
No, but I'll go to this. It goes deeper than that, and I think I've honed in on a certain thing. And I'm not saying anything about boomers. Okay, I'm not negative. My parents are boomers. Okay, I was raised by boomers. They're a huge demographic of individual, and they vote. Okay, they vote
religiously.
Right.
Vote
now. Is
they're
that
also
different?
getting manipulated at scale?
Yes. Okay. Don't steal my thunder,
Okay,
Andy.
sorry.
Okay.
So I just have one question though. So in the August primary, are the demographics going to skew big time? And I'm talking age, because the boomers, who are they voting for?
Well, let's say this. I would say that the Republican. Okay, so let's go here. I'm gonna break this down real fast,
because I just did a story about the August primary, and there's a couple things on that
you want
ballot
to vote for. That you want to go vote for. Okay, so here we are. Okay, you have percentage-wise a majority of boomers that are Republican. Okay, it's not a lot, but it's a 54, basically, it's a majority, okay, which when they get out in numbers and vote, that matters. Then as you get younger, okay, and then our demographic of age group is not so much, but still majority of, it's like a 51, okay, and as you get down, it starts going the other direction, like exponentially, right? So you can say why you think that's the case, but when you have like a situation like just saying Thomas Massey, and you have all these individuals that are supposedly Trump-backed candidates that he's endorsing that are winning, that's the reason why. You have a group of boomers that are getting out and they are voting in mass. Majority of them are Republican leaning. So then, because Trump says this is who you should vote for, then they are following like sheep's being led to slaughter.
Except in Iowa.
Okay, and that was for the governor race, correct? Okay, so, and then not only that, but I want to inform people too. When we talk about primaries in Kansas, that does not mean that it's apples and apples when it comes to a primary in Iowa or Tennessee or any other place. But through the last couple weeks to a month, I've really tried to just understand this. I really want to understand this, and I believe education is how we come to understand something. I try to be a critical thinker, and I try to check my own biases and whatnot. But this is kind of what it's got. And if you want to think that somehow or another I'm faulting boomers, I'm not, and I'll get to something here. But we have a situation where 20% of eligible registered voters get out and vote in primaries. What 20% do you think that is?
The boomers.
Okay, the boomers. Basically by a 75-25 margin. Okay? So who's to blame, if you want to look at it that way, if my age demographic is saying, well, the people that I like Andy mentioned, Thomas Massey's, these individuals, right? Like we had somebody comment on the thing and they were like, you're a Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, you're this, you're part of the civil war that's going on with the Republican Party right now. You're the reason why this is happening. And it's like,
I guarantee you that's a boomer that's locked into a certain algorithm that is
Fox News. So crazy. Fox News. Okay.
You can almost take all the talking points and plug them in.
Oh my God.
And nothing else.
Yes. And then because you can tell where someone's algorithms are at.
But do they realize the masses of the big medias, like the Tucker Carlsons, like the Megyn Kellys, like the Sean Ryans, like the Patrick Bet-Davids, like the Joe Rogans? I just said the biggest media channels that exist now.
Yes.
That far outproduce the other ones.
Oh, hands down.
Are all seeing what we see as well. They're just not afraid to say it because they're not owned in particular by any one organization. The reason they are independent was because they were tired of being put on a station and told what to say. And then you could even tell, like the David Rubins of the world and the Officer Tatums of the world, right, who are still playing that narrative, you could see their funding and who's funding them.
Right.
It's unbelievable.
And I think it's resonating with people. I was watching something, Jesse Waters, which obviously I believe is still a Fox News correspondent, okay, says that, I mean, we're still, okay, ceasefire, no ceasefire, we're going to have here, I got to read this. Iran really wants to make a deal, and it will be a good one for the USA, and those that are us. Don't know exactly what that means, but don't the Democrats and various seemingly unpatriotic Republicans understand that it is much tougher for me to properly do my job and negotiate when political hacks keep negatively chirping at levels never seen before or over and over again, and I should move faster or move slower or go to war or not go to war or whatever. Just sit back and relax. It will all work out well in the end. It always does. President Donald J. Trump. I mean, you know, it's like what's happening is these voices are starting to resonate with the public. Then you come, and it turns out, like we've been talking a lot about this unholy alliance between Israel and ourselves, and we're trying to get one thing done. Trump is trying to get one thing done. Let's give him credit. He's trying to get something done. And then Israel, the state of Israel, the nation state of Israel comes around to the point where Trump supposedly went off on Netanyahu saying you're effing crazy.
Yeah, you know, that's been reported 100% that he finally jumped him.
Have you seen Israel's commercial that's floating around on some of the streaming services?
Not yet. I've seen a lot of the Iranian
It's been going for about a month and a half, and it's Netanyahu, and I'm actively censoring my language right now, okay? But it's Netanyahu, and he's talking about how it's time to, I'm going to use the correct language because he doesn't use the right language. It's time to change the way Israel deals with the United States, and they don't want to have us just writing checks. They want a partnership.
Oh, I bet. So basically, we want you to do the same thing, but we want to change the optics on this because people are starting to get pissed off about this. And then let's do this. Let's change the law to say that if you speak out against the policies of the nation state of Israel, that you are anti-Semitic.
Yes. Yeah, that's crazy.
And then you have an entire population, generally speaking, when polled, the boomers once again, who think that we have to have an alliance with Israel because they are God's chosen people. Then you have the Catholic Church that comes out and explains the theology behind this that says, no, that's not particularly correct. That yes, we're not going to get into theology today. We'll just go here. Okay, so because we would be here all day. So I started. I just go to this. Okay, so I kept digging, and I wonder, why is this the case? Why is this the case? And I want to read something. Okay, and Chad, this will go right up Chad's alley, and I think really reveal something for people, and I really want boomers to understand. And I'm sure I'm gonna get hammered for calling them boomers, although like I detest my folks, right? But I just want to read this real quick. Okay, what it comes down to is the time in which they were raised and the trust that they could have in the media when they were growing up. Basically, and not only growing up, but into their adult life, having kids and everything else, because the laws were different. And I don't know how many people actually know this because I kind of knew this, but I honed in on something. It says, boomers often appear more susceptible to political messaging and misinformation due to an unfamiliarity with modern digital landscapes. Because they grew up in a heavily regulated media area where information was objective, they inherently struggled to identify paid political spin, algorithm-driven echo chambers, and deepfakes. Raised in an area with trusted broadcast networks, many older adults are not taught to cross-reference multiple digital sources to recognize unverified websites, making them prime targets for online spin. It says the fairness doctrine. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Chad probably knows what I'm talking about. Because the broadcast spectrum was scarce, the FCC mandated that stations provide an honest and balanced representation of opposing views on matters of public importance. Rather than directly targeting lies, it prevented stations from acting as single-sided propagandists for their own opinions. Then there was the equal opportunities rule. The rule, often called equal time, required stations to give legally qualified political candidates equivalent access to airtime if they provided it to their opponents. This ensured opposing perspectives were reliably broadcast. Now, I got to say this. Some of the people that watch this program that are boomers ask the question when I interview certain candidates, am I going to interview the other candidate? This looks like an endorsement to me. Right, these are comments that are coming in because I interviewed Senate candidate for Kansas, Christy Davis.
Right.
So all of a sudden I've got to go and I've got to give equal time to this other person. No, I don't. There's nothing saying that I have to do that in any way, shape, or form. Because this is why during the Reagan administration, there was strict limits on news distortion. The FCC maintained a narrow broadcast news distortion policy to strip licenses from stations that deliberately fabricated news. However, to protect editorial freedom, it had an incredibly high burden of proof and required extrinsic evidence, such as memos or bribery, providing management intentionally deceived the public. So, in a day and time when they grew up, number one, media was not the same as it is today. Because it was during the Reagan administration that those two things disappeared. Then the advent of Rush Limbaugh. Then, as we continue to go down the line, it just becomes opinionated, non-factual, doesn't have to be. They can sit there and they can lie to your face. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. I know I just got winded here, but basically where I'm at is that the generation of my parents who grew up in a time in which media was no reflection of the media today. They trust what they see coming across their news source. And when their news source tells them everybody else is corrupt, everybody else is fake news, everybody else is propaganda, then in their core belief, it's Fox News is right, Jesse Waters is my friend, these people are telling me the truth, and they're telling me that all these other, everybody else is liars. And it's to retain viewership, nothing more.
Yeah, what's interesting to me is that you will have that mindset, and they will watch that one station to fill themselves with the things they want to hear. And they cringe, because I was one of these people, when you go to the other one, not realizing that the other one is just as bad as the one you're watching. And when you find yourself, for our boomer friends out there, in a situation like that, just know that should be a red flag for you. I'm not trying to be ugly. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I'm just trying to tell you, if you only want to hear what you think is right,
the echo chamber,
and you only look for that, and everything that you consume is only that, you're probably not getting a 360 view of what you want to see.
And I would say being brainwashed.
1000%.
But how do you take somebody who's currently in that situation, that no matter what anybody else says that's different than what it is that they believe, they're not willing to, I watch this stuff all the time. It's people that go out, and granted, they're probably questioning a certain group of people. They're not going to question the informed, educated, articulate Trump voter. Right, they're going to go out and they're going to pick and choose who they do. So they go and they grab onto this boomer, and they're like, "You're a Trump fan. I am for Trump 100%. I hope he runs again in 2028." Okay, so they take these extreme cases, but what's funny to me is that they will go. Many oftentimes, what I see is they will quote things that supposedly, and they'll tell them in the beginning, Kamala said this, Biden said this. And then they're all against it. Oh my God, I know that's horrible. That's it's treasonous. It's this and that. And then they're like, well, wait a second. It actually wasn't, Harris. What if I told you that was what Trump said? I don't believe it. You're a bad person. It's like all of a sudden, it's the gotcha
They do it on both sides.
And they do it on both sides.
Should I drop a real bomb here?
Sure.
In 1987 is when that fairness doctrine went away. Congress tried to bring it back. Reagan vetoed it. And Donald Trump was a Democrat. So, folks,
don't steal my final words.
Folks,
come on, you guys. You got me trained now. I swear.
He was a Democrat?
Yeah, up until he was a Republican.
Yeah.
He's cool now, though, I guess.
All through the 80s.
And I'll get beat up for this one. I was like 95% down with everything Trump was doing and what his vision was. I'm probably 65% now. So I'm not a nothing burger, and I'm still over majority. But there are some things that he's doing that it's cringe, and some of it's really bad, frankly. And the fact that we are not having the conversation, or we don't have rules and laws that outside money should not be able to come into a state to win an election, like what happened to Massey, and really having that, but then knowing that that conversation will never happen because Congress on both sides is cooked when it comes to that. Then you got guys like Dan Crenshaw who got pushed out, who I think went in there, who frankly, that really bothered me because I read his book. I was super supportive of him. He's one of our American heroes, right? He's a Navy SEAL. He's got all the pedigree that you think would be an American patriot and warrior. And then he got bought out so damn quick, you couldn't even believe it. Right? And that goes to say, who the hell am I? Who the hell am I? If someone like that got twisted and turned up there, I don't know what his journey was, but am I any stronger than him? So how the hell can I talk crap on what his situation was or how he ended up where he ended up? But you get guys like that getting pushed out, but the majority of those people out there, they won't change the rules and laws because they're profiting from it.
That's right.
And it's on both sides of the aisle. And until our populace starts, I think the majority of us are like, hey, whatever people do in their own bedroom with Gay Pride Month and all that stuff that's going on right now, that's their own business. The majority of us are there. But when you start walking in a parade with your penis hanging out in front of my kids and you're trying to normalize that kind of behavior because there's sick, deviant people in that group, in that parade, and you just think it's all okay, and you don't call out your own people and saying that's effed up, I have a problem with that. Just like I have a problem with the Republicans talking all this crap, and I am a Republican, about Hunter Biden, which is legit a mess, and you don't say anything about the contracts that Donald Trump Jr. is getting involved in, that are like, you talk about taking a piece of the pie and one took the pie, and you're not saying anything about that, and you're not even just questioning whether that's weird or not. Come on, guys. We've got to open our frickin' eyes and get the hell out of our own little tunnels and have real good conversations about what real change looks like. But because it's almost mission impossible to have that much of Congress get changed at the same time because it's so polluted, that's where our problem starts. Yeah. And we're sending those people up there, and 80% of us will say, my guy's the good one. Mm-hmm. What is wrong with us? And so take an internal look at yourself in the mirror, realize, what am I allowing to manipulate me, and change it?
Well, and my question is, do people... Okay, then it comes to the question of whether people have the capacity and the ability to do that. I'm not... I know that how difficult it is to change something, right? How difficult it is for an individual that is in a routine of doing something to change it, especially if it requires work and effort. I mean, just using physical exercise, for instance. You go up to your local fitness center, it's not packed full of people that are trying to physically better themselves and go through the grind and do everything. But the fast food line goes all the way around the block. And I'm not saying anything against people. Don't think me to be so critical, but it's just... That's a topic for another day. Why do people? Maybe it has to do with the fact that people are just more comfortable in where they're at. Because they've been so pre-programmed, Andy. you know, because you're not saying what they already hear and what they've already been told, then you are the enemy.
Well, let me break something down in my perspective. This is Andy's opinion here, allegedly. I got to use that word to protect us. No, my opinion is I would love, Lance, to get a therapist on here, a real good therapist that could come in and we could have that conversation, prep them a month in advance. We can do some work on the side while we're working towards this really great podcast to talk about looking at the mirror, looking at self, and trying to come outside of your comfort zone, right? And how hard that is, and why do people do this? But there's about 50% of the country, me included, I'm wearing it, my deodorant, my cologne, that are going to go, that industry is so skewed by the left and the extreme people that want to justify all this stuff, that half of the country won't listen to that talk, even though there's a lot of value in it. And it may be that therapist has 10% of bias in the delivery, but we aren't smart enough to weed that out and look at that 90% of value, and we leave that off the table just because of our perception of that industry, just like the education system.
Right.
There's a lot of good, way more good than bad. Yes, there's some crap in there. There's some crap in everything, including each one of us. But the majority of us is good, the majority of the time. But we are choosing not to have these really hard conversations. If you look at, what is that? What is that book? Good old Mike Fellows.
Convention.
Yeah, the Convention of States. The documents, the conversations, the
Article 5 of the Constitution.
Man, the conversations, the fist fights, right? And then coming back and having that over and over, night after night, to give us an opportunity to not do that anymore. I mean, I think we've got to check ourselves. We're at this point, right? Yeah. Our engine lights are all on. We need to stop the car. We need to take the oil out. We need to see if there's any oil in that sucker, right? We got to do some changes. And it's all about having those hard conversations to realize, like, there's some amazing therapists who are left-leaning, but that really understand the human genome and how we function.
Oh, yeah.
And somebody like Next Element, right? When you get a Nate Regier in here and have him walk us through that conversation, I mean, the value there is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I would love to maybe try to figure something like that out.
We should,
and that was a pretense to setting up Nate. I would love for him to come on and have that direct conversation of, why do we do this? Why are we doing this? What is your synopsis?
What's the psychology behind it? Yeah. Right. And it's probably more simple than you would think. And you know, political scientists, right? Political science, the whole aspect of political science, the education behind it, is to take information and try to hypothesize what that information is telling us. It's that simple. It is a science, folks. It really is a science. It's not a physical science necessarily, but it is definitely a science. And then you can garner, maybe make a hypothesis on why people do this. You that's not really the job. I mean, it is in some regards, but it's more of a conclusion of the information that you've been able to garner from the research and the data that's there, right? Like, I can say, boomers do this. This is how they generally vote. This is where we're at. We know this. We have this information, but it doesn't necessarily explain why and why we can't get around this. I think people are Democrats because they're not Republicans. And I think Republicans are Republicans because they're not Democrats. And I think that this two-party system has just devolved to the point where those that have or are in those positions of power, the machine is so strong, it doesn't want to change. There's too much human involved in it. There's a human aspect that goes to the most negative aspects of human nature and strokes those. And I guess I'll just say next week what we're going to talk about, because we're coming in the program, is we're going to cover a lot about primaries. And we're going to be Kansas-centric because we're going to talk about the upcoming primaries and then something that people will be voting on, which is a constitutional amendment to elect our Supreme Court justices. And, Chad?
There's two constitutional questions.
What's the second one? That's the one I've been focusing in on.
The other one is about citizenship and voting.
Okay. I need to. I thought we already had that one in the bag. I thought there was research done that in our current state that we were in, that when it came to election and election interference and election fraud, that there was like a total of 5 individual cases.
We got a constitutional question.
Okay, so anyway.
We got a constitutional question. We have 2 constitutional questions. One's over the selection of Supreme Court justices, and the other is citizenship and voting.
Yeah, should your Supreme Court justices be a partisanly elected position? Okay, so with that being said, final words, gentlemen, what do you got?
I had a conversation with Mr. Ed Myers this morning that gave me hope. Can you believe it? Ed is always, when I have just talked to Ed, just Ed, he has always surprised me in one way or another, right? So in case y'all don't know, Ed Myers is the guy out on Spencer that puts the fun signs in his yard.
He is the treasurer for the Harvey County Republican Party Central Committee.
Yes. But Ed gave me a call this morning. He actually tried to call me twice yesterday to get some information from me, and then he caught me this morning because he's got a group. He calls them the Patriots Group, and they want to hear from some more candidates that are not Republicans. So he wanted some contact information within the Democratic Party and with the Resistance Lab, and he wants to start getting some FaceTime with some different candidates. He wants to hear as many as he can, and he wants his group to do so as well. That gives me hope.
Yeah. Well, you would.
In all honesty,
you would hope. Depends on what it is.
It may not change a single thing about who people vote for.
Right.
It really might not. But the fact that he and his group of folks, because, and I'm trying to be as politically correct about this as I can, right? Because Ed and I have never really seen eye to eye. It's just a fact. They are very much in one camp. But just the willingness to expose himself to some other things is incredibly awesome.
And I hope.
So Ed, you gave me hope today. Thank you.
Final word on that. Yeah. I have so much to say with that, my personal experience. But yes, Andy, final word.
Woo, that was a heavy one for me today. I've just been so fired up about all of this, and we've got local elections coming on, and you got, I get some phone calls, and I call some of my friends too, just to kind of see what the street's saying and what's out there, and what are the important things and what are the characteristics about people, the good and the bad. So you hear everything, and you don't want to talk trash on people, but you want to listen to see how people are frankly branding themselves in the community, right? What does that look like to others, not just myself, from my own perspective, which is, I think, a lot of what we just talked about today, Lance. It's Chad, it's looking deeper into how do we get outside of our own perspectives of individuals and allow other people to show you a light. I was working with a gentleman in some economic development stuff, and I work with a guy, and I started giving them not personal stuff, but just enough about my perspective of this person and why I'm excited to work with them, because sometimes they can be hard to deal with for a lot of people. And once I gave my perspective, because they have their own little zygote of pods of people they listen to, and once you get a bad reputation in the city building or wherever, they all kind of feed each other that stuff, and then
5-second judgment on you.
Yeah, and then they want to just think, hey, this is who you are, or they associate with you with somebody else, and then they put that umbrella on you, because that's what people do. It's natural. I get it. But you should have seen the change in body language and facial expressions when they realized, oh, this person's a person too, and they've got challenges just like me. And it's because we have a connection, then I lent a little bit for another person that had nothing to do with me, but just to let somebody know, hey, you're probably not all the way right in how you're viewing this person. And it did change some things, right? And I just love the ability to do that. So I would say, as a community, as we go towards the elections, get to know the people who you're actually checking the box for and who they are and what they do. And trust your eyes. trust what you see. Don't always trust what you hear.
Yeah. Yeah. Or secondhand information.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, guys, that I added on to your guys' final words, both of you, this week. I'm going to do something somewhat facetious or precarious. Look those up. Webster's Dictionary. Okay. So, I'm going to lend my quote to another. If I were to run, for president, I'd run as a Republican. They're the dumbest group of voters in the country. They believe anything on Fox News. I could lie and they'd still eat it up. I bet my numbers would be terrific. Donald Trump, People Magazine, 1998. Stay woke, everybody.
That's a factual quote.
Yeah.
Yeah.